All righty. Well, welcome everybody. It is so good to see you. I hope you have had a good morning so far. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jody Johnson. I am the Tech Integration Specialist for Princeton Public Schools. This will be my fifth year in that position, which is crazy to think that it's been 5 years since I've been in the classroom. It's my second year as the as a tech specialist here for Best Prep, and in 2017, after my first year as a tech specialist, I actually attended Best Prep as a participant. So as far as my experience with Flipgrid, I just love Flipgrid. I used it when I was in third grade, so it was, or when I taught third grade, as it was just starting to come out and kind of a new thing. And I have just kind of fallen in love with it over and over again as I've learned more about it. 2 years ago at ISTE, which is a big national tech conference, they announced that Microsoft had purchased Flipgrid and made it free, which was very exciting. If many of you know that many of our ed tech products we get excited about and we want to use them, and then we have to start begging the powers that be for money to be able to use them, because they go for that pay for play type thing where you can only use a certain amount. And Flipgrid was like that. It was, I think, $60 a year. But when Microsoft bought it, they made it free for everybody. And that hasn't changed, and it's not going to change because they are committed to making this a way of empowering students. So as I look at the poll, it looks like most of you, this is your first experience with Flipgrid. So I'm really just going to kind of go through the basics. I have my chat open. You are welcome to turn your mic on and pop in at any time or raise your hand, whether that's virtually or whatever, and just let me know what questions you have. So, all right, so Flipgrid's mission is really to empower every voice, giving students the voice. Now, I'll give you a little background. Flipgrid was actually created in Minnesota at the University of Minnesota by a professor who was traveling out of the country. He wanted a way to connect and give feedback to his students, and with short videos. And this is exactly how Flipgrid was created. So as you can see, those of you who have been using Flipgrid, it's these tiny little video shorts that we use back and forth. And it's kind of grown into this huge global platform. But that's how it started at the University of Minnesota. Flipgrid is still located in Minneapolis, right downtown is where they have their main offices. If you ever get a chance to go tour Flipgrid, I would highly recommend it. It's a really great, post-COVID place to go visit. It is, last year when I was at the Minneapolis Tech Conference, we got to go kind of see behind the scenes, and it's a really neat collaborative workspace. So when we've in the past talked with the workforce panel and we talk about what's important for our students to learn, you go into a place like Flipgrid and you see that those collaborative spaces and learning how to work with other people and problem solve is really important when you see a real live workplace like that. Plus it's just fun. I mean, they have a pet wall and all kinds of fun stuff all over. So really great place. So their mission is to help you. I actually had the honor, I really feel that way, of I've met many people from Flipgrid, but I got to interview Ann Kozma, who is one of their education leads at Flipgrid for I'm doing a grad class right now. And truly their mission is to help. I mean, they're very accessible. They are very willing to help. They want to empower every learner to share their voice. They want kids to have that ability to share their learning, to share their voice. They're constantly listening to teachers on how to improve the platform. And so every year they go through a big change, or they do what they call Flipgrid Live, where they share all the new changes and updates. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of updates that happened last year. August 5th, they'll be releasing even more updates that have just made it things that they've listened to the teachers, they've listened to students to make this a better platform. A lot of those changes are recently around what's happening in our world, which is pretty great. So what is it? is really simple. Flipgrid is you start with a grid. So like it says here, it's simple, authentic, and too much fun. So you start with a grid, and that's kind of your personal learning community. It's your place. And then within your grid, you create topics. So a topic for them to discuss. So within our grid for the tech integration workshop, we have the tech integration workshop. That's kind of our grid, our classroom, our community. And then every day we have a new topic that we share and reflect on. So there was a topic for before we even started, like an introduction. And then there's been new topics every single day since then for you guys to reflect and just to share your learning at TIW. The really nice thing though is that obviously the topics can be things that you come up with as a teacher. So it can be, I want you to check in, tell me how you're feeling, reflect on this book we read. There are thousands of topics already created in Flipgrid by other educators, by their partners. So you can see there's tons of ed tech partners that they have here. And as you look at some of these icons, you'll see that a lot of these are companies you have to pay to use their products. However, any of the things that they have embedded into Flipgrid are free. So like any Nearpod things that are in here are free. And so you can use these topics. So there's stuff from OneNote, there's stuff from the Smithsonian, and I'll show you some of these. Wonderopolis has some great questions that you can use as topics for your students. And the wonderful thing is you just grab them and insert them and go. And you have a topic for your students to reflect. Really great option for distance learning or in-person learning to be able to get that connection with your students, to have them that face-to-face. I know I mentioned just a little bit ago that I'm taking a grad class, and one of the parts of my class right now is to really spend some time digging into technology and what makes the best tools. And one of those was we had to analyze the tools, and Flipgrid kept coming up on top. And one of the reasons for that is that students need to see faces to connect, that kind of social emotional piece. So that's one thing that this really provides. So just something to think about there. So then students share. So as soon as you get your grid, you find a topic and you can pull one of theirs, then students share. And you guys have already, or many of you have already done that by you click that big green plus and record. This is what I really like as a tech nerd, as I like to refer to myself, is that the camera is already embedded. So you're not having to record on your phone. Some of you will remember the days of, okay, I have to record here and then upload or email it to myself and download and then share it. There's none of that. The camera is already embedded. And what I'm going to show you in a little bit is they keep making the camera better and better. It's not just a camera anymore. There's filters and there's stickers and there's all kinds of great stuff. But the students just share. And now another thing they've added on is they can edit. They can add more to it. And then they take a selfie and then they post, and that's it. So how do you Flipgrid? Here are just a few ideas. Not overwhelming at all. This whole presentation, by the way, is in the resources on the Spot Me page. But really, there's really no limit to how you can use Flipgrid. And one of my favorite, I know I mentioned I talked with Anne, and she brought up, this is my new favorite quote, that especially during COVID, you can't cancel community. And that's how a lot of teachers and a lot of educators were using Flipgrid during, closure, whatever you want to call it, during COVID, is that this was their way of continuing their community, because kids could still see each other, they could communicate, you could do icebreakers, you could do, intense debate, you could have kids debating back and forth, because not only can you do a video, but kids can video back to each other. You can video back to them as feedback. So there's great ways to have that communication and that discussion back and forth. Phy Ed demonstrations. So think of that for distance learning. If students can't be in the classroom, they could demonstrate their learning by doing a Flipgrid video. They've upped the time limit now to 10 minutes. So really they could demonstrate just about any type of learning you want. You can also limit the amount of time. So if you don't want your kids making a 10-minute video, you can bring it all the way down to a minute and a half. So you don't, because sometimes there's some children you don't want to have 10 minutes of video time.
Hey, Jody, question for you.
Yeah.
Is there a way to limit that the students can't see each other's responses? Like if you're using it for an assessment or something like that?
You can. So there's two separate things you can do. There's something called video moderation where they can't see any videos. So I will show you that. I'll create a grid and I'll show you all of the features where you can do that. And then you can decide, do you want to post it or not? And then you can also decide, do you want them to respond to each other or not? So that's a great tool, one, for like you're saying, Lori, if you're using it as an assessment and you don't want them to see it. Or like for me, one of my, I'm a nerd. I'm a big nerd, you guys. I'm called the Lego lady in our primary and intermediate schools. And one of the activities I did during COVID was I did Lego videos. And I had kids, whoever wanted to, do Flipgrid videos to share the builds with me. But because those came in randomly and it was an open grid, I moderated those so they didn't post until I could watch them and make sure they were safe and that the kids were appropriate because they were at home. Some of them were filming them by themselves. And I didn't have a single issue, but it was a way for me to moderate. I always tell teachers when I'm, sharing with Flipgrid or Seesaw even with videos, I love that video moderation piece because it's a great way to then you can watch the video first and have a conversation with, Susie and say, well, I noticed in your video that you weren't using school appropriate behavior or language. And so we're going to try that again. Like, this is your filter. I'm your filter. Let's shut it down, let's delete it, and let's try it again. So it's good for them to know that there's that filter to help them learn how to make the right choice.
Can I share something?
Yes, please.
Barbara. Yeah, I went through Flipgrid and I did see what you said, we were gonna go to that section or portion where you can turn things on, turn things off.
Yeah.
And I think being able to like something or not, because I have kids, but our students, we've heard something doesn't, like if it wasn't created in the last 2 years, it's like dumb, not important. They're on this different level or wave. So someone getting 1 like versus another video that got 20, they start to diminish or devalue, the importance of it and their performance based on what other people think. And it should be, if it's a learning tool, it should be something that the teacher, the instructor, the facilitator sees first, evaluates and shares so that we are empowering them to continue, because it can really shut kids down.
It really can. I completely agree, Barbara. With Seesaw is the same. It has that same feature where you can do the likes. And I've been in the classroom when we've been using it and have watched where like kids will start shouting out across the room, like, I have 5 likes and why didn't you like mine? Go like my video. And it completely, exactly what you said, diminishes the point of the assignment. So we usually shut that down too. I do like when parents can go in and comment and reflect on it, but they can get so focused on that it takes away from the learning.
Well, and you did say we want to continue community. Sometimes, the baby boomers, us older folks, we have a sense that social media is sort of breaking down, that communication piece. And
right.
we need to get away from thinking it, that it's a deficit, that it does have its pros and cons. However, sure. If we're thinking about like in, the initial keynote or different shares this morning, even that it is kind of a wave of the future, and it is something that we need to get on board, and we have to find every positive maneuverable part of it, because we cannot take it away. We cannot shut it down. We can't unlearn what we have learned in the last 4 months with COVID. I mean, we can't undo technology. So
Right.
I'm really appreciative of this this model here, this way to share. So thank you.
Well, oh, absolutely. And it's such, like you're saying too, those things aren't going to go away. So this is a great tool to teach them how to use it appropriately. We have that opportunity. I mean, I always think of it as such um, a responsibility, as we are putting these devices in the hands of students. You know, our district is 1-to-1 312. It is my responsibility to help come up with a plan of how are we going to teach them how to use it responsibly. So if we're using Flipgrid, that's a great way to show how are you going to use likes and comments and things like that for when you're out on social media, on Snapchat, on Facebook, well, we know kids don't use Facebook anymore, but on Instagram, things like that. You know, even if we're not referring to it, at least we're teaching them the proper way to do it. Great conversation. All right, so Flipgrid, the Disco Library, which I did not know until recently is short for Discovery Library, is where all of these great topics are. And so this is where you'll find a lot of really great resources that you can just pull in and use right away. All topics, all discussions, and we've been talking a lot about kids here, but there's a lot of use for using Flipgrid for your PLCs, for your adult learning communities. I've seen a lot of that, this is where discussions are happening for book clubs and all kinds of things. So truly there's something for everybody in there. They have weekly selects, so it's kind of what's been the most important with everything that happened. As soon as we shut down, they were working every day. They went to doing webinars once a week to 6 days a week and had things on. There's a whole resource on remote learning. As soon as everything happened with George Floyd, which was blocks away from the Flipgrid downtown, or main offices, they had resources up on how to address equity, and they still do. They're actually building that out more and more. So they are on top of, and that's one thing I talked to Anne about, was how as our world shifts constantly, I notice that Flipgrid is on the pulse of that. And they're a small team, a really small team for as global as this tool is, that they're constantly getting on that and making sure we have the resources to share with our students. So this is just, if you're a big social media person, sharing, Flipgrid is on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They're everywhere. If you want to learn more, every Saturday they have on Instagram, and does different trainings and stuff. So it's a great way to just connect with their community. And this is probably one of the best tweets, and kind of the mission of Flipgrid is the idea that a girl who didn't say a word for the first 3 months of school introduced Flipgrid. She started talking through that tool and now raises her hand in class. There were several stories about this during COVID too, that there were, and I say during COVID like it's over, but during distance learning, where kids who maybe never spoke in class used Flipgrid to actually start communicating because they felt more comfortable with that, which is really great. So I'm going to show you some features, and then we're going to actually dig into the tool. So first of all, one of the features I want to talk to you about is there's the camera. So like I said, the camera isn't just the camera. They have added a lot of things, like there's filters on it. You can do photos, you can do pictures, you can draw right on the camera. You can do a whiteboard on the camera where your face is not even there. You can do sticky notes, and you won't be able to see the sticky note on the camera, but you can do a sticky note so you have something to read, kind of like a script for yourself. That's great for students to have a resource of how are they going to know exactly their points that they want to make. And then there's this shorts camera, and the shorts camera is basically just your ability as an educator to use the Flipgrid camera without creating a grid. So without having to go in and set up a grid, you can go in and use the Flipgrid Shorts to create a short video that you can share through email, through social media, on your website, in a presentation that is maybe directions or information that you want to share out. So I did a quick little short here, just mainly to show you a couple of the camera features. So I'm going to show that to you right now. Hopefully. Hello. So with the Flipgrid Shorts, you are able to create short videos that you are able to share anywhere. You can put them in an email, on your website. You can create a QR code to share them out. You just don't need to create a grid in Flipgrid, but you can use all of Flipgrid's camera features. So some of those camera features that I want to share with you are the filters. The filters allow you to change the color on the camera, maybe find the best color, the best lighting for you. But also another great filter is the pixel. Some of our students and even adults don't really feel comfortable being on camera. So using that pixelated filter allows them to be on camera without maybe having their full face on there. It makes them feel much more comfortable. Other options are being able to type while on the screen. So if they are giving a presentation or talking about things, they are able to put in type right on the screen, which is pretty exciting. In fact, I can tell you that this is exciting. And they can move that type around while they're on the screen. Another feature is to add stickers. So if they want to add stickers right into their presentation, they're able to do that. So I can pull up an emoji sticker and add that right into my presentation. And then they are able to draw. So if they were maybe like in a classroom or at home, if we're doing distance learning, they could draw. So I could show that right here, I have one of my Lego minifigures right behind me. So that is another feature they're able to do. Now, I'm going to clear this because I want to show you a great feature that I think is fantastic for students to be able to demonstrate their learning, and that is the whiteboard or blackboard feature. Students can click on this while they're recording, and they are able to either type or write on the screen. So their face doesn't even need to be on the screen, but they are able to do a demonstration. So maybe that is with math and showing where a right triangle is. Or maybe that is with type and they are going through the characters in a story. So maybe there was the brown bear and then there was the yellow bear. But they are able to do that and have that whiteboard or that blackboard on the screen while they are talking. So again, that's another feature that might be more comfortable for students who don't want to be on camera but want to create a video or a demonstration. So those are some of Flipgrid's features on the camera. Again, this is a short that I'm going to actually just embed right into my presentation. So let's continue with our presentation now. All right, so that, like I said, oh, did I freeze? There we go, is an example of a short. So you can use that to use all of the Flipgrid features in the camera, the pixelation, which is really nice, without having to create a grid. We kind of talked about this already, but this is a grid. And then once you have a grid, you add topics. Now you can have a grid for a whole school year. You can have a grid for your classroom. It's really how you want to set that up. And I'm going to jump into a grid here in a minute to show you what it looks like. But there's a couple other really important features that I want you to know about. One of those is the immersive reader, and this is a Microsoft tool. Now I'm going to be super honest with you. I am a Google girl to the end. But I'm kind of falling in love with Microsoft right now because of some of the things they've done. This immersive reader, if you see this little symbol, and you're going to notice it's actually in some other tools here, like not just in Flipgrid, you'll notice it in other Microsoft products, will read everything to the student, which makes Flipgrid even more accessible to more students. not only will it read it to them, so it's not just like a read aloud, which if you have worked with any read aloud services on a web, you'll know that they don't always work really great, or the voice is kind of bad. You can change how fast or slow it goes. You can also change the text size and the font. So if kids need bigger or smaller or different color, whatever rests better on their eyes, you can color code nouns or other parts of speech. So if you're working on specific things, you can do that. You can flip through the wrong slides. There we go. You can do a visual focus tool to help them. So if they need pictures, and then there's a picture dictionary. So there truly is a way for all students to have access here. We in our district, we have read write for Google. This reminds me a lot of that feature, but it's already embedded right inside of Flipgrid, which I think is really fantastic. For some students, they need to use this right beside a teacher or a para or a parent or somebody with them. But for other students, this feature makes it so they're just that more independent, which is fantastic. The Explorer series, and I'll show you where to find this in here, but the Explorer series has topics that are all around one area. So there's a whole Explorer series around math magic and aquariums and coding. So there's tons of topics, but then they connect with real people. So there's the topic you can put in there, but then they have real experiences that you can connect with, kind of like a virtual field trip. And the integration docs. This is where if you are like, yes, this seems awesome, I have no idea where to start. The integration docs literally have something for every single grade. The nice thing about the integration docs is when you click on them, and again, these are in my resources on the TIW Spot Me page. So let's say you teach math pre-K. Is the top part of the integration doc gives you a quick overview of Flipgrid, and then below it gives you ideas specific to that grade level and topic ideas that you can run with right away. So it really helps you. It also has ideas for every specialty. So I always challenge people when I do a presentation, like give me a topic or something you teach that, and challenge us to like not be able to find a Flipgrid topic for it. Cause I'm sure we can find a reason, you know, like Phi-Ed can't come to me and say, well, we can't use Flipgrid in Phi-Ed. Yes, we can. Like there's tons of stuff on here for Phi-Ed. Every subject has something on here, which is really great. And then Flipgrid AR. So this is where you can take, and I wish I could show this to you. I don't know if it's going to work on my screen. I'm going to try though. We'll try and see. We'll just try once, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to give it up. I'm telling myself that so I don't get too frustrated. Flipgrid AR is you can take, so when you take a Flipgrid video, you can download this little QR code. And what this QR code will do is create a video and people can walk by. Can you guys see my phone on the screen? Yeah? Okay. So what will happen is when people walk by with this, oh, you don't need to see my Calm app unless you want to calm, is you can scan these videos and it actually pops the video out. So I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to go to my Flipgrid app. There we go. And I'm going to scan the code. Let's see, it might not work because I'm doing screen on screen on screen.
And I'm Aubrey, and we love to play tennis. Tennis because it's a great place to hang out with friends. And you can exercise in a fun way.
So
And I'm Aubrey.
wherever I would have had that video, it would have played like that. So if that QR code had been on the wall, the video would have played on the wall. We've seen people do this with art showcases. So they'll have like a whole student row of art, and then they'll have the QR code next to it of the student explaining their video or their art and what they created. So the AR thing is really kind of awesome. I'm going to show you how one of our teachers used it. She might be your specialist, actually. That's her daughter. That's Angela. So Angela did this with her students. They all did a word that described them, and then they did the QR code next to it.
Hello, I'm Peyton, and my word is provide. I picked this word because it applies to everybody, and I wanted to share one example of that today. So when you smile at someone, you provide that smile for them, so then they can start smiling. That's just one of many things you provide. Thanks for listening.
You provide a smile is what he was saying. But all of these had a QR code, so then the kids could scan it and then listen to the student telling more about their word, which is really cool. This is something we did with our staff. We had our staff record videos, and so then we could put these up. This was one of those big ideas that didn't go very far. Someday when we have big ideas, that we had all of our new teachers create these last year. And then the hope was to have these all over so people could just scan them. But it didn't happen. And then this is another idea. This is kind of the same with the word and then the AR thing next to it. Another option is to do a mixtape. And a mixtape, those of you who grew up in that era, is just what it sounds like. It's where you put multiple videos into one. A great way to use a mixtape is to make a mixtape of all of one kid's videos and then share it with the family. So this is an example of one student in this teacher's class where she took all of her videos for the year, created a mixtape, and then shared that link with the parent, so the parent had every single Flipgrid video that kid had made for the year. So every time you make a video, there's going to be this little mixtape icon next to it, and you can click on that and decide what mixtape you want to put that in. So you can do that if, so for instance, I said with new teachers, when we did our new teacher Flipgrid videos, I picked 4 or 5 of the best new teacher videos and made them into a mixtape so we could have just a great video of that to share. So mixtapes, and then it just plays all of them together, which is pretty neat. And then finally, the Educator's Guide. This is just a really fantastic resource that's updated. This isn't made by Flipgrid. This is educators who are super passionate about Flipgrid that they have created. It has absolutely everything you need to know about Flipgrid. In here, it's a PDF, so it's clickable. You can click on all of the resources that are in there. And again, I have this embedded into our resource. So it's just an ebook that has everything on there. And of course, it's going to be super slow pulling up right now because that's convenient. But it has pretty much anything that you need to know, from getting started to going really deep with Flipgrid. I like this just because I like the clickable, going slow to go fast type resource. And then on the resource too, there's some places to get started. So there's actually a getting started spot in Flipgrid. The blog is updated quite regularly, and then the integration docs. Before we jump into it, I just want to introduce these people. So this is my friend Anne, who I was telling you about. And then Jess and Janae, Jornay, they are the education leaders who do a lot. This whole team this is their education team that you will see. If you tweet at them, they will respond back to you. So if you ever have questions, they are a great resource. This is Adam, short shorts, because he wears short shorts all the time. All right, so let's look at a grid here. So so when I log into Flipgrid as an educator, this is what Flipgrid looks like to me. I have a couple of grids here. I have mine that we're using today right on top. So I'm going to click on this grid, And then within the grid, I've put a couple of topics. And I'm going to share this one with you because I would love to have you guys actually dig in and play in a little bit and maybe record a video. For TIW, we would love to have someone record a video here that we could share at the end. So I'm going to show you where you could do that. So once you're in here in the grid, you'll see that I have 4 topics. So for these topics, I can go kind of flip in between each of these topics. So I could go to the TIW reflection. So if this is something you would like to do so that we can feature, usually at the end of the workshop, we have 4 or 5 of our participants come up and just share what was their greatest takeaway from the week. So we would love to have someone record a video of that. So this is where you would go. So when you go into a grid, obviously you have the questions here. You have the immersive reader right here. So I'm going to show you what that looks like when you click on it. So this is what the immersive reader brings up for the students. They can change the text preferences. So they can even change the font. They can change the color. So these are all those things we were talking about. They can have it read to them. And then they just click here and do their response. Oh, I don't want to log in though, because I want to stay as a teacher. Nope, 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 nope. There we go. Okay. So that's one of the questions, one of the topics put in. This is a topic that I created, was the TIW reflection. These other topics are ones that I took from the Disco library. So this one was what inspires you. So I didn't do anything with this one at all. I just clicked on it and said share, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So what inspires you? Read the article below. So Wonder of the Day, this is from Wonderopolis. This is one of those integrated tools. So if we click on Wonder of the Day, it'll open this up for the student. They don't have to log in or do anything. They can read the Wonderopolis story. I had never heard of Wonderopolis until I learned more about Flipgrid. And then after they read this, they can go back and reflect right in here. So it actually asks them, who or what inspires you? How do you feel when you're inspired? What great things do you hope to do today? And then a couple other ones. What's in your bag? This is a really great, if we had more time together, I would love to do this one of, because they can actually do this visually, like what are 5 things in your bag that represent you? And then have them actually put those in there. So this would be a great icebreaker one to do with your students, especially if you have to do distance learning. Have them, go around and find 5 things in their home and record that. Again, they could, if they don't want to find 5 things, they could use the whiteboard feature and draw them. They could take pictures and upload the pictures on there. Lots of different options. And then building empathy. So this is partnering with Epic, which are free books. If you don't know about Epic, check it out. Awesome, awesome resource. So they would read the story, I Am Human, or have it read to them, and then come back and respond to the book. So a great way to do that ELA component. So I'm going to show you, because I know we're getting close on our time here. As an educator, when you're ready to do a Flipgrid, just kind of what some logging in things look like. So I'm going to click up here. I'm going to click on Educator Login. I've got a snoring yellow lab sitting like right next to me, and it's so distracting because he's like so loud right now. I don't know if you can hear him, but it's so crazy. All right. So up here is the Disco library. So if you're just getting started, this is a great place to go to find some resources. But first I want to show you how to make a grid. So we're going to click on Add New Grid. And anything, it can just be your last name. Okay. So then for having your students sign in, if you're a Google school or a Microsoft school, I would just suggest doing that for ease. Have your kids log in with their Google or Microsoft credentials. Otherwise, the next step is to have your students create create a list of IDs for your students to log in. That's a little bit of a more intensive step for you. The other way is to have it be a wide open grid that anyone can access. I really don't recommend that unless it's for adults. So for students, for safety, it's really better to have the school email or way for them to log in easy. You can change the code. So like I changed my Flipgrid code to Flipgrid WOW or Flipgrid TIW 2020. You can change the code or you can just let them generate it for you. The nice thing about the code is really it's just a link that they have to click on. They don't usually have to type anything in. So you don't necessarily have to mess with the code very much. And they always use your last name on it, which is nice. So for me, for adding school email, I just have to have our school STEM for our email here, so the @isd477.org, because then any student who tries to log in with our Google credentials, it'll let them in without an issue. All right, so my grid is ready. So I'm gonna click on Go to Grid because I could just share it, but obviously I want to do some editing. Now our grid is just the house. It's just the where everything goes. It's our community. So some things here, you can change this picture. This is like your main picture that they see. Every time you create a grid, they give you a topic right away. So they always give you this say hello to Flipgrid topic so that you have a topic to get started. You can delete this or leave it there. It's completely up to you, but it's kind of nice that they already give you a topic right off the bat. This is your code to share with students. And then let's see, let's go in and actually create a topic. So I'm going to add new topic. And let's just say we want to do a reading reflection. So you're going to put in a title, give them a prompt. This is where you can change the recording time all the way up to 10 minutes. So 15 seconds to 10 minutes. Now you're the only one who can control that. So you really want to think of what's the time limit you want to set for your students on there, because it will shut them off. Video moderation. So this is what we were talking about earlier, is that idea of being able to hide the videos until you've said okay. And once you moderate them, it'll allow you to say unhidden and you can show it to everyone, or you can always keep them hidden. Focus, this is just adding something to engage. So you'll notice on the topics I had before, like there was that light bulb that was all fired up. There was a GIF or a GIF, however you want to say it, on there. That's where you can pull these in from. Or if I wanted to find like a Wonderopolis question or a link, I can pull that in here. So these are just topics. Let's see. Peanuts has a really cute little image. Yeah. So if I want to pull in, there we go. Just a little happy dance. So you can just pull in a focus there. You can delete it. You don't need to have one. But then I always suggest clicking more options, especially if you're kind of new to this, so you can see everything you can add. So if there's more information, like you want to tell your students, speak loud, speak clearly, don't forget to use the 5 W's, whatever it is, this is where your topic tip goes. Any attachments, so if they need to go to your Dropbox or your Google Docs, that goes here. But this is where those features are. So one thing is with the stickers and with the student replies, sometimes you can go down the black hole of being super off task with kids. I know none of you have these kids in your classroom, but some kids will go crazy with like the stickers and all that. You can turn them off. You can just say, we're not doing stickers until I say we're doing stickers. So in here, you can actually just turn that off. You can turn off that they can only do video, that they can't do selfies. You can turn off that they can edit. I wouldn't. I would always allow them to edit. That is a new feature. Previously with Flipgrid, if they got to the end of their video and they didn't like it, they had to delete and go all the way back. Now they can cut and edit their video. They can add on if they realize they forgot to say something. This is that student likes. So you can turn off or on if they're allowed to like each other's work. If they can add a title onto their video. The sticky note, that's the little thing that, again, you can't see, but they can see to help give themselves information. And then do you want them to reply to each other or not? That might be something you wait until you've given them some direction on how to do it. And then there's feedback that you can do. So this is if you're using this for an assessment, you can give feedback, either custom or basic feedback on ideas and performance for them. So this is where you can really control what happens and what doesn't happen in your videos. And then you create topic and you're good to go. So to share it with your students, you just click copy, or you just share your grid and they click on the topic that they want. You can also share the QR code that they can scan depending on device. Or if you're in Google Classroom or in Microsoft Teams, you can share that as well. I want to show you the Disco library. I know we got to go, but the Disco library, so every week in the Disco library, there's always going to be like the big topic. So like I said, race, equity, and justice, this is the big topic right now. This is probably going to be up here all year. Lots of great stuff coming in here soon. Check back August 5th. There's some really awesome stuff coming in here. There's things on learning from home. So great resources for that, Wonderopolis. So if we click on one of these, oh, it's not gonna do anything. Then we go down here and these are all the topics that we can use on that topic. So these are all the conversations about race, equity, and justice. So if we find one we like the look for helpers, so I'm pretty sure this is our friend Mr. Rogers. Yep. All we have to do is select a grid, click the grid we want to add it to, and click add. That's it. It's already been added to my grid. Now I can edit it. So if there's stuff that I want to say specifically to my students, like I know that I need to change it for them, I can. Or if I know that this is perfect how it is, I can just update the topic. Some other things that are in the Disco library, just to make it easier for you, there's the weekly hits, so kind of the things that are most popular for that week. And then there's the different playlists. So there's a Lego education playlist. I didn't know that. I'll see y'all later. Oh my gosh. Okay. There I didn't even know that. I'm so excited. There's like Nearpod, Wonderopolis, MSN Kids, Skype. There's different featured educators. So educators who use this a lot and create a lot of really great topics, they have their own on here as well. And then topics you've shared or topics that you've said are your faves. And then made for me, this is based on your use of Flipgrid. It'll start curating a list of really great topics for you. So I'm 2 minutes over. I'm going to get going so you can get into your, like, go to the bathroom and do whatever and get to your candy group session. Please reach out with any questions. My information is on the resource page. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. I am a nerd. I love being a nerd. If I wasn't moving right now, I would show you my Lego town. It's ridiculous, but I'm getting ready to move, so it's packed up. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you later.